sense. But the bottom line is WWE did the right thing. They reached out to Lanny and his family, and they made it happen. And, whether it was Vince McMahon or Triple H or both or whoever, Macho Man Randy Savage is in the Hall of Fame, and that's all that matters. He belonged there earlier, but he's there now. Many people believe that the entire Poffo family belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm one of them. I feel that Angelo Poffo was the Stu Hart of the Midwest. Without Angelo Poffo, there's many wrestlers that probably would have not even made it as far as they did, including Lanny and Randy, and even Jerry Lawler, because the two companies merged together, just bringing even more exposure to Jerry Lawler and his company, and of course Angelo Poffo and his company back in the days when they had territories. Now, of course, WWE just pretty much rules the world, and that doesn't happen anymore, so WWE gets the credit for everything, whether it was WCW or ECW or NXT or FCW or OCW, it doesn't matter. It was all WWE and WWF. So, kudos finally to WWE for putting Macho Man Randy Savage in the Hall of Fame. And I want to thank Lanny Poffo for joining us that weekend for Warriors of Wrestling on Saturday night. Earlier that day at Legends of the Ring, you got to meet and greet a lot of the fans and connect with a lot of his former peers and co-workers from back in the day, including Tony Schiavone. He got to meet and had a positive effect on the girls that we brought along with Team INS, Caitlin Diamond, Casey Spinelli, the Twisted Sisters, Thunder Rosa, and Holodead. So that exposure and the stories and the work ethic and just the kind words, and he automatically became a fan of the four of them. It helps independent wrestling, and this is why Damage 365 Promotions brings independent wrestlers to mainstream conventions. It's not always about money. Yes, it's nice to make it. It's always awesome not to lose it, but sometimes it's a little bit more. It's about giving exposure to the independent wrestlers, whether they're male or female, especially the females, because male wrestlers, it's a lot easier for them to get over in this business because they outnumber the female wrestlers probably, I want to say 5-6 to 1. Very 5 or 6 male wrestlers as the one female wrestler. Most promotions only have 1 or 2, maybe 3 female wrestlers as a whole. So, and then how many do they have on their roster as male? 20, 25. So, bringing female independent wrestlers to these conventions helps them network, helps them meet other promoters, helps them meet other independent wrestlers that work for other companies. They meet former mainstream stars that they get to perform in front of and get their opinions and critique their work. This is all part of the learning process. It's not always about what goes on in the ring. Sometimes it's about what they're able to absorb like a sponge inside and outside the ring. Don't think it wasn't beneficial to the Warriors of Wrestling students to learn from people like Brooke Adams, aka Brooke Tessmacher, Lanny Poffo, Tony Schiavone, or anybody else that is brought to those shows. They get to ask questions, they get answers, they get to learn. They get people that have been in the business for years watching them, critiquing them, giving them advice, sometimes constructive criticism. Whatever it is, it helps. In the long run, down the road, it helps. So I can never give enough thanks to the stars that we bring in. And of course, we can't give enough thanks to the fans who, pay to see them, pay for the autographs and the photo ops and the merchandise and memorabilia and things like that. Because without the fans, we wouldn't be bringing in these stars so the independent wrestlers can learn and the fans can get to meet and greet all these former WWE and WCW, ECW greats that were on TV that made us all who we are today, and that's fans. So, Damage 365 Promotions, you can reach us on Twitter at Damage 365 Radio, on Facebook, facebook.com/Damage 365, Instagram at Damage 365 Radio, and of course on our Weebly account on Damage Notes, we have all our updates, recaps, and everything else, videos and audio. Damage365radio.weebly.com. So, want to give, again, props to Lanny Poffo, Team INS, the Twisted Sisters, Warriors of Wrestling, Pro Wrestling World, and Legends of the Ring Fan Fest and Convention. And this man, Tony Schiavone, who we're going to play this right now. And when we come back from commercial break after this Tony Schiavone shout-out, we should be joined by ROH star Kelly Klein.
But before we dig into the Four Horsemen, you had a pretty eventful weekend this past weekend. You were doing a little limousine riding and jet flying yourself, right?
I don't know if you call it limousine riding or jet flying, but I was doing a lot of stuff. I was very excited about this weekend, being able to go to 3 different events. I went to the Legends of the Ring in Monroe Township, New Jersey on Saturday afternoon of this past week. Then that night, I went to the Warriors of Wrestling independent wrestling show in Staten Island. And then the very next day on Sunday, I was at Bud Carson's Pro Wrestling World in Allentown, Pennsylvania, signing autographs, reconnecting with people, and had a great time. My first experience, Conrad, with independent wrestling. I talked to Cornette about that. Cornette said, "You had never gone to an independent wrestling show before?" The answer is no, I never had. I tried to stay away from that once I left WCW. And I'm telling you, when I first got there, I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, what have I got myself into? But I had a wonderful time. I sincerely really did. Those guys are hardworking guys. I'm not going to mention any names because I'll get them wrong. But I know the 2 guys in the main event, and I need to mention all the guys that were there. So I'll get all the names wrong. But the 2 guys in the main event, one was Jason Karloff, I believe. And they both came to me and asked me my opinions on the match. They were very humble. They were very appreciative of my work. And it was a great 2 days to stroke my ego, if nothing else, make a little bit of money. Plus, I got to meet some fine lady wrestlers.
I knew this was coming. What? I just know, in 2017, these indie shows, there's more women now than there used to be. And I thought, boy, if they've got a makeup chair, Tony will find it.
Well, 2 great young Canadian wrestlers, Caitlin Diamond and Casey Spinelli. We became good friends, traveling back and forth. They're gorgeous women, and they can work. I mean, they really can. And then the Twisted Sisters, Holly Dead and Thunder Rosa. Holy snakes. These girls, I'm telling you right now, these girls had a match against a couple of guys. One was Jason B., who's like the runs Warriors of Wrestling. I hope I got your name right, Jason. I'm sorry if I didn't. Who runs Warriors of Wrestling. They kicked those 2 guys' ass. Now, they lost to them, but those 2 girls did things that I'd never seen women wrestlers do before because I'd been out of the business for so long. I remember back, and I talked to Cor Bauer about this. I remember back when it wasn't like that, and Medusa was the only really tough girl in there, and she didn't really have anybody tough to work with exception maybe Bull Nakano who came in. But now it's a pretty apparent women's wrestling has changed a great deal. So I love those girls, all 4 of them. Love them. LUV them. And I appreciate all that they've done. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Well, and we're going to have a lot of fun on July 9th at 3 Links in Dallas. We had a blockbuster announcement last week, and now everybody's excited. The super show you've always wanted. What happens when Bruce Pritchard joins Tony Schiavone on a stage? Well, they're going to talk about Tony's year in the WWF. We're going to talk about SummerSlam 1989. And, of course, we've got to touch on some Monday Night Wars. But the hits keep on coming, Tony. I haven't even told you this. But I have a surprise lined up for you and you alone. And I'm not going to give you a hint, but I am going to say that Klondike Bill would be proud. And it's going to happen on stage with a live audience. And this is not a huge venue, so we encourage you, snatch your tickets up right now. You can do that at whwlive.com. And we want to mention that this is the most affordable a ticket around, really, because most of the time whenever you go to some of these signings and autograph sessions, you have to pay an entry fee, and then you have to go ahead and pay for a picture, and then you pay for an autograph. Well, this is VIP for everybody, man. There's not different ticket levels. So come on in, join us, 1 o'clock. The show's going to start at 3, but we're going to hang out for 2 hours beforehand. It's going to be one heck of an afternoon in Dallas. It's July 9th. Pick up your tickets right now. Bruce Pritchard, Tony Schiavone, all things WWF, WCW. And the only place to get your tickets is whwlive.com. And you can still go ahead and cruise over and enjoy a phenomenal pay-per-view main event of Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire in Dallas. So don't miss it, whwlive.com. I expect in the next 2 weeks this will sell out. So hurry, grab your tickets right now, whwlive.com. Anything else you want to mention about that shenanigan that we have lined up?
I'm really intrigued now about what you got lined up for me, because if you said something about Klondike Bill, I mean, you're not going to use a kielbasa on me, are you?
I'm not going. There will be no kielbasas will be injured in the filming of this podcast. And I should mention we're not actually filming it. We get lots of questions about that. Are you going to record it for the podcast? No, we are not. The only way to get this experience is our live show. So come join us in Dallas, July 9th.
I would like to add, and I got some names wrong, very briefly, the guys that I worked with on the road this weekend. Joey B. Is the man in charge of Warriors of Wrestling. I got to meet Darius Carter, Logan Black, Jason Karloff, Chris Romano, Chris Steeler, Matthew Ryan Shapiro, Rob Blatt, and, of course, I was hanging out with the genius Lanny Poffo, which in itself is an event. Did you ask him? I'd asked him before.
But the event you're talking about, did you see the event? Did you have a ringside seat?
No. That's an urban legend.
No, it's not. Peggy Lathan, who listens to this show and is one of the old Mid-Atlantic super fans, you probably know her.
I know Peggy very well.
Well, she told me a story, and she saw Lanny go one-on-one with the Great One.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't think it was proper. I mean, when the fans are coming by, I didn't turn to Lanny and say, hey, Lanny, is it true? I remember back in the old WWF days, that one year I was there, and he was the genius back then. I had asked him. He looked at me and smiled. He said, that is a story that has been around for a long time. I'm not so sure I can confirm it or not. And he had a smile on his face, which told me he just kind of confirmed it. So Lanny was there. I was there with Damaged 365 Radio. Our thanks to Kevin S. Nasta, Jennifer, and John, and the staff there for a great weekend. So I just want to get those names out of all the people I met. And I absolutely love independent wrestling now. I really do. I appreciate the guys and girls busting their ass for what looks like not much money, you know?
This is Caitlin Diamond, and you're listening to the Indy Super Show on the Damage 365 Radio Network. And it's time to party like a rock star, a Roppongi rock star.
Saturday night, August 5th, Sabotage Wrestling presents Something's Got to Give, War of the Genders, a night of intergender wrestling, including Sabotage World Champion Delilah Doom, the Unstoppable Thunder Rosa, Pumpkin Queen Sage Sin, Hudson Envy, Desiderata, Holodead, and many more. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook at Sabotage Women. Tickets on sale now at WrestlingGuy.Yapsity.com. Sabotage Wrestling presents Something's Got to Give, War of the Genders, August 5th, live from Imperial Beach, California.